when you streamline your processes and you're efficient and you actually have, the right people on your team, that's the number one thing for us. The challenges we face are exactly when we were talking about pivoting earlier, just finding where the opportunities are. A lot of times companies come to you when it's already 3-6 months past the time that they needed this person, and they're already losing money or lost a project because they couldn't find the right person.
Welcome to The Growth Switch, the podcast where we dive into the strategies, struggles, and breakthroughs of bold business leaders. I'm your host, Jules Fox, growth strategist and lead content creator at Aries Media. I'm here to uncover how today's top brands are scaling, overcoming challenges, and unlocking sustainable success. Now, for those of you just tuning in, Aries Media helps grow successful brands with comprehensive, hands-on support for sales, business development, and performance marketing. Go ahead and drop growth into the comments if you want to learn how to do that. Now, today we are joined by a really fantastic guest, Robb Hoyle, the CEO of GTS Scientific. He's got 20 plus years of leadership in life sciences, recruiting, and he's helped many companies from Fortune 500s to Fortune 100s to startups. He helps them build elite technical and executive teams with a relationship-first approach. Robb, welcome to the podcast.
Jules, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the podcast. All right, so you saw a unique niche where your company could fit in. Talk to me about the process of how you decided to actually go ahead and launch a company.
Sure, yeah. So I founded GTS. It's been a little over 12 years now, back in 2013. And I was in recruiting for 8 or 10 years at that point, and had found a lot of success for myself, recruiting, and then I learned how to do business development, and I ran a team, and that was all fun, doing that for a while. It was a great place to learn, and one day I just decided, hey, I've been doing this the way that the companies like to do it, their way, and helping them be very successul. One day I just said, hey, I think there's a better way we can do this, and I'm going to go out and do it on my own. So, literally had a full-time job, was doing well, and then ended up quitting a few months later while I built my company kind of under, the fold while I was, working full-time there.
Yeah. I mean, hey, when you have a calling, sometimes you have to go for it, So tell me a little bit more about GTS Scientific and how that works in recruiting. Like, how is it different from other companies?
Sure. Yeah, so we do all life science recruiting. So we focus from preclinical research through scaling up and commercializing a drug or technology. A lot of the work that we do is in pharma, biotech, medical device. We even get more niche in that area in cell and gene therapy. And, the reason why we kind of focused on that, and I used to do a lot more in science and engineering on the kind of manufacturing of specialty chemicals and industrial manufacturing. But then really in 2014 decided that I wanted to go into this life science, and I always was in the life science. I just wasn't fully focused on it. The reason why I bring up the cell and gene therapy stuff is because I saw that technology come to market back in 2014. They had cured the first pediatric patient of lymphoma, and she is still alive today, thriving and doing well. Her name is Emily Whitehead, and that's actually an organization that we've been able to partner with. But I saw her story at an event that I was at, and it was so touching and heartwarming that, CHOP here in Philadelphia had brought that technology to be able to end up saving her life eventually. So it was something you could really be passionate about. And, obviously all of our clients are, in need of these kind of world-class scientists and engineers who are literally saving lives.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big reason to get into an industry. This goes beyond just putting a warm body in a seat and filling that position. This is actually like getting people in the most critical roles so that they can make a bigger impact on the world.
Yeah, that's right. Not typically, some recruiting companies treat their services as a transaction, right? And that from day one wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to build relationships. I wanted to partner with our clients and be able to make an impact where we can. And obviously, we're not the ones that are doing any of the research or anything like that, but in some small way, when we find the right scientists and engineers for our clients that align well with that company's mission, it turns out really well and allows them to go along that path and treat patients.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, you don't do this in a standard way necessarily. It's all about building personal relationships. So why don't you tell me more like what a next level recruiting partnership actually looks like?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It is all about building relationships. And it's funny because I have people that I've known for 15 or 20 years now that I've never done any business with. And then all of a sudden they need to hire or they need a new job, and they give me a call and say, hey, Robb, I need some help right now. And I always want to be that for them. So that's kind of how I built my career, was looking at it like I mentioned transactions earlier, right? You talk with somebody, maybe you have coffee with them, you have lunch, and then 9 months later, a year later, they don't hear from you. And Rob was just a recruiter looking to fill his, that one job that he had. Our approach is very different. And, myself and our team here, we look to build those relationships long term and really be a resource outside of just recruiting, right? So a lot of my job is, our team does most of the actual recruiting these days, but my job is meeting with these CEOs and company founders that maybe they need a accountant, maybe they need a patent attorney or some sort of, life science marketing communication service company. My goal is always to be able to come to a meeting and say, what do you guys need? Whether it's right now in my, recruiting or something else I can help you with, right? I always lead with how I can help, and even general networking with folks in the industry. I'm always trying to figure out how I can help them. And, the great thing is, you start to help people and all of a sudden they're helping you without you even asking. There's a lot of times where I just get these introductions to companies because I've known folks for a while and I've done a good job for them, or I help them out in a networking way. And it ends up being a mutual relationship.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think leading with like, how can I help is such a radically different strategy than many other companies, and really just a great approach to being a good person. But also, you are part of this system, like, in the US right now, we're facing some really interesting budgetary cuts, especially as far as like science and research. So you've built this amazing system. How are you pivoting or dealing with what we're going through right now? We're even just starting to go through right now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, especially for life sciences. Over the past 2 or so years here, we saw a big cut in, it started with a lot of the IPOs slowing up and then venture capital money drying up because of the fact that the end of the road for them is, hey, we go public and then, we get our money back essentially, right? Our investment came to fruition. But a lot of that dried up. And on top of that, you had interest rates that were very high, crushing a lot of companies. So they delayed a lot of the capital projects that they may have had. If they could wait 18 months for to kick off a project and save millions of dollars by doing it, they were doing that. So that being said, then you toss on top of that, there's the tariff situation and some instability in the market and all of these things. It's a very challenging time on top of what was already going on. So that being said, you have to, in order to pivot, right? And we could go all the way back to COVID and talk about pivoting because everybody had to do that, right?
Yeah.
And we were able to and be successful. And 2021 and 22 were some of our best years ever. But now, you have to look for the opportunities in the market, right? And there's been a couple of different opportunities that have come our way through what our client needs have been. Because at the end of the day, you may not have budget for headcount, right? To hire a full-time employee, but you may have the ability to hire some fractional talent. You may need one of the things that we're doing now as well is research as a service, where we will place PhD researchers with clients of ours for a period of time just to complete a project where, hey, we can't hire this full-time employee, but we need to complete the work that we've already done on this. So that's through fractional talent services, research as a service, things like that are how we're pivoting. And we're also, just reaching out to our clients to say, hey, how can we help? Obviously the volume of jobs for a full-time opportunity right now has gone down significantly in life sciences. Mm-hmm. So we're just here to help, and obviously we need to do what we need to do on our end, but we're offering any sort of help that we can to our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think productizing like a niche talent like that and saying, we can help you get this end result and you don't even need to hire a full-time position. I think that's critical as people start to, pull back on the budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you help companies get these critical hires, maybe get some of these product style situations going, hiring full teams, what are some of the mistakes that you see leaders making early on as they scale a business? So for those of the businesses who are growing, how could you best come in as an advisor and help them grow with the right people?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I've learned those lessons for myself the hard way, right? When we were, a much younger company, you scale too fast, you hire people too fast, and you're not under the microscope in terms of looking at the day-to-day work that they're doing when you hire too fast. And, just because you have a lot of work doesn't mean that the work you're doing is in the right direction or productive, right? Creating results. So that's one thing that, we learned that 5 or 6 years ago. Our team was heavy in terms of our own overhead, and we were doing well, but we spent a lot of time and a lot of money focused on the wrong things during that time because we were so busy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's a success problem to have, right? Being that busy. But when you streamline your processes and you're efficient and you actually have the right people on your team, that's the number one thing for us, is that if you have the right people on your team, you don't need 10 extra people. You need to be efficient. You need to work together toward a common goal, and then you can be a high-performing team. And it's the same with clients of ours. And a lot of the work that I do, obviously, we're here selling our services. But when I say we partner with companies, I don't claim to be the best recruiter on the planet for every company out there.
Mm-hmm.
I claim to be very, very good for the clients that allow us to partner with them and grow with them. So part of that partnership is allowing me to coach you and your team on how to do this the right way, because it doesn't matter who I find and how I vet them. If if the company is not presenting themselves properly and the goals aren't aligned between the candidate and the company that they're going to, it's got to be a full circle opportunity. Them allowing us to coach them through that process. There's some companies that have a great process in place, and we come in and we just complement that. And then there's some companies where we literally will take over their whole entire recruiting operation. It's called, recruiter process outsourcing. And we do everything for them from the beginning of the job to creation, approval, through to, finding the hire.
Mm-hmm.
And placing them on day one. We've even had people on site and done orientations with companies and things like that. That's a bigger scale, partnership, obviously. Even if we're doing one or two positions and these positions are so niche, when we find that one candidate who's perfect for the job, has the right background, it's the right opportunity, well, guess what? You're not the only one who wants to hire them, right? So we have to make sure that we check all the boxes on the front end before we even start a search, and really coach the client along with letting them know exactly what we need.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, this sounds like a very comprehensive support. Almost any position that you would need along a journey, not just right now in this moment, this person, but also as my company grows, this is the talent that I will need along this journey, all the way through RPO, as much as they can outsource that to you and have you help them as a true growth partner, and you're supporting them with all the talent that they need. It sounds like a very comprehensive and long-term approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the one thing you just said there, right, but, building a pipeline,
mm-hmm.
A lot of times companies come to you when it's already 3-6 months past the time that they needed this person, and they're already losing money or lost a project because they couldn't find the right person. So that's part of my coaching, is like, hey, let us know beforehand, right? And we can start to build that pipeline for you so that when it comes time to hire, you're not months behind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really fantastic thing to have, is just somebody in your corner who knows what you don't know, who knows along your journey. Like, by the way, it would be really nice for you guys to have this in place, because you're going to need that coming up, as you guys expand, especially. Good problems to have, these growth problems. But yeah, if you tried to do it yourself and 3 to 6 months went by and you're like, I guess we can't do this ourselves, you're already way behind and you're losing money,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another part that, we help them out with, is just looking at the general process of their hiring. How does it flow? What does it look like? We can troubleshoot it for them, and, help them in any way that they'll need it. Because a lot of times, they're experts in making medicine and doing research and things like that. But sometimes companies, especially startups, have never been there. And all of a sudden they've got this big A round of funding and they don't, have any guidance in that area. So it's good to have a resource that, has been there.
Yeah, I think they actually bring up a really, really good point right now that not a lot of people consider, which is you could be an expert. You could be a doctor. You could have a doctorate. You can be a scientist with 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the field. But if you don't know about hiring, and if you don't know how to get the right person, it doesn't matter if you know what qualifications you need. If you don't know about the process of hiring, you're probably not going to get the best talent to support your work.
That's right. Yeah. And this world-class talent, they're picky. So if you're not presenting to them the right way, they're going to be, taking another opportunity. So it really is crucial for these companies to hire the right talent.
Yeah. Being in the market for a hammer versus a carpenter is a very different experience, because the hammer's always there on demand, but the hammer's of no use to you without the carpenter. And what you need, the carpenter needs to buy into your project and want to build that house before they get started.
It's the main reason why you do a project at home. If you don't have the right tools, it'll take you 3 weeks versus 3 hours.
Yeah, true that. Funny you should mention that. I actually managed to destroy this thing I built for my wife over the weekend, and I think this is a good example of exactly that. Was like, I really thought I could do it myself, and I built a metal trellis, and I used very thin metal, and now with 50 pounds of passion fruit vines growing over the trellis, it started leaning. And when I went to go fix it with my Home Depot tools, the whole thing is destroyed. So now at the base of our staircase out in the yard is just a destroyed mass of 60 pounds of passion fruit vines that have destroyed the metal. So I need to outsource this, obviously.
And also, she's probably not very happy about it either.
Right. The whole journey is bad from start to finish at this point. I probably hiring a person to help out probably would have been just $50, and that could have saved my weekend and potentially saved this plant that's there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have great strategies in place. It sounds like you offer very wonderful, comprehensive support and services for these people. What are some of the growth problems that your company is facing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, acquiring new clients is always, a challenge. And, we try to make sure that we go ahead and, have the case studies that we have. But at the end of the day, a lot of times the market's going to dictate what opportunities are out there, right? So, the challenges we face are exactly when we were talking about pivoting earlier, just finding where the opportunities are, because no matter what the administration is, no matter what the hiring climate is or the market is dictating, there's always opportunity, and you have to find it. So that's the main challenge. I'm not saying I have figured that all out, because every time I think, with traditional business wisdom, oh, this is how things are going to work out, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's not the same as it was 15, 20, 30 years ago from those case studies. So, the biggest challenge, is just finding the opportunities and trying to read the market to see what's next, see what's going to thrive in different times. And then also, challenges around our own people, making sure that we have the right team in place, making sure that all of our folks are fed and doing well. That's a big challenge as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were granted like a superhuman ability, right, to take the one thing that is blocking your company growth because you wanted to 10x your company's growth over the next 10 years, what would that thing be? What would you do to really get in there and fix the glitch, whatever that was, and to give you the ability for massive growth, maybe to meet the right clients, to connect with the right people and show them exactly what you do and how you can benefit their company?
$20 million and 20 more business. No, I'm just kidding. So for us, it's honestly being able to connect with these life sciences folks and being able to scale it through those relationships. I don't think that there is one way where you just go out and you're able to massively explode, right? It is all built off of those relationships. And that's how we've been able to grow. We do work in 30 plus states now. We've been kind of across the globe with companies that are based overseas, but that takes time, right? So I'm never there's this new idea. Like, we could talk about AI and recruiting for a little bit here, but that to me isn't it's a very good tool, but it's not going to just X our business tomorrow. To me, 5Xing your business is you have to work harder and smarter. And through tools like AI, those are great tools, right? I can pull up a list on ChatGPT with 40 companies that are hiring right now in my region. And then from there, I can do research. I've done business plans that used to take me a month. They've taken me 5 hours. And then you go through and edit things. But in terms of recruiting with AI, that's not where it needs to be, I think, yet. But it can get there. And at the end of the day, you're never going to replace the personal conversation and expertise that our recruiting team has with some bots searching for resumes and things like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you are continuing with the most authentic way, the human first approach, but you're also incorporating a little bit of AI to at least have some more outreach possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have, we have worked with, some different marketing campaigns and things like that, which are more, so we're doing both in terms of like for me personally, if I'm looking to get into a company, I will ask one of my high level contacts for an introduction if I know that they're connected there. And then most of the time I'll at least get a meeting. And on the other side of the things is the cold outreach, where maybe we don't have a connection at the company. So we do marketing and email campaigns that are, kind of high volume, but low yield. I mean, I think actually it was interesting because we just did one about 3 weeks ago. We ended up getting a contract out of that.
Oh, great.
but then the position actually ended up going away. So it didn't end up great. But the fact that, I think we emailed 300 contacts, and then out of that, 10 responded or whatever it was. And then, one ended up being a great meeting that, look, it's not the end of that relationship. It's just not right now. Right.
Yeah.
So we may talk to them in 3 months. We may talk to them in 3 years from now. Who knows? But, we try to do everything and not just leave out, the cold stuff as well.
Yeah. And I think the not right now speaks volumes about this is you may want to set the pipeline in place. So we talked about the pipeline earlier. This is your hiring journey. It's nice to have somebody in place. But if you don't have a pipeline at all, if you need to suddenly now you're hiring, and if you don't have the relationship with the right recruiter, and now you need to go find the recruiter and then the right hire, you're doubling up your task. So it's probably a good idea for somebody to start with you now, even if they're not necessarily hiring, so that they can hire when the time is right. How do those people reach you, Rob? How do people find you and the company online? And I'm going to have those links below, by the way, for listeners and viewers. Go ahead and look right below. Those links will be on demand.
Sure. It's gtscareers.com, and my email is rhoyle@gtscareers.com.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And it sounds like you guys are positioned for huge success going forward.
That's the plan. Jules, thanks for having me on. Great conversation. Yeah. Thank you.